Thank you, everyone, for being here. It's very exciting for me to be here. We will be talking about what makes a winner. What is the journey, the creative journey that takes an agency from, from the idea to the podium? Is it pure magic? Is it, something we cannot explain or deconstruct? Or maybe it is divine inspiration, something that sometimes we have and sometimes we just don't. Or is it hard work? Is it research and planning, rigorous process that one puts in place and then delivers results time and time again? This is what I provoke you to discuss today. Do winning campaigns come from dreaming or digging? We will do it with the help of my colleagues, winners of 3 of the Silver Sabre Awards we just celebrated. Congratulations, by the way, to all the winners. And I invite here on stage Martina N. and Johan Sevenius from Jung Relations, please. Welcome and congratulations.
Thank you.
Take a seat. Chris Wilcox from Edelman. And Elizabeth Pechman from Ogilvy.
Congratulations.
We also say a big hello to Florian Krenkel from Ogilvy, who will not be joining us on stage, but who is here with us. You guys did some amazing campaigns. We will hear about Experience Halo, done by Edelman, for Halo 4, Xbox, Microsoft. It's an inspiring immersive brand experience that generated many international headlines by, imagine that, transforming an entire country for 24 hours into a replica of the Halo universe. We will be also hearing the case study of Blocket Easter egg campaign for Blocket, one of the Sweden's largest internet companies, a campaign which generated exceptional buzz as well as helping the company recruit talent. Anything but the regular recruitment campaign, I would say. This PR program involved the target audience in an online game, a fun, efficient, and innovative idea. Also, we will hear about Stratos Jump Successful, a clever hijacking of the Red Bull-sponsored Stratos mission, a campaign based on a video that went viral, bringing the client, Model Makers Fair Vienna, free coverage worth millions. So these are the 3 campaigns. Let's hear more about them, and then we will have a very good talk together with you about what was the process behind those ideas. Please, Chris.
Yeah, I think I'm up first. Afternoon, everyone. So for those that don't know, Halo is Xbox's flagship video game franchise. We think of it as a Star Wars for this generation, epic sci-fi battles with mankind struggling to survive, struggling for survival, rather. But it's not just any video game, and it's not just your average shoot-'em-up. It's sold 50 million copies since it launched in 2001, and is a 3 billion franchise for Xbox. So we were really entrusted with the crown jewels when we had to launch Halo 4 last year. The couple of challenges that we were facing, the first of which was that classic PR conundrum. How do you reinvigorate interest in a 12-year-old franchise and find new stories to engage media and consumers? The second was to really elevate and escalate this campaign above just speaking to gamers. We wanted to make an entertainment launch, a real blockbuster launch for Halo, and take fans on the journey with us, but really make this a mainstream story in the process. So it all began with an insight. We constantly speak to Halo fans. We listen to what they're doing, and we really value their opinion. And one of the things that they talk about incredibly passionately is their desire to be immersed and inside the Halo universe. And so the basis of our idea really was to allow them to make that happen, and to make that happen on the most epic scale imaginable. So the idea, now I expect to be fully grilled by Gabriella on this shortly. So what I will say is that it was around being the first brand to ever transform an entire country for a new product launch. We knocked on the door of the government of a very sleepy and tranquil European principality called Liechtenstein, and over a period of months actually worked with them to let us transform their country, effectively hire it for 24 hours and take fans and media from around the world on an epic and interactive theatrical experience that culminated in them being the very first people to play the finished Halo 4 game. Now, I could talk about it for hours more, but I will spare you all that because we've got a short film that sums it up nicely.
Gearing up for their launch next week by transforming an entire country into a Halo universe.
The battle for our survival is in your hands.
Really awesome. You guys are next.
Okay, so we are very glad to be here in Barcelona today to present one of our greatest projects from last year, Blocket Easter eggs. My name is Martina. I work as an HR manager at Blocket, and Blocket is one of Sweden's largest and most successful internet companies. Blocket is an extremely popular classified site where you can post ads if you want to buy and sell things. With our 4 million unique visitors every week, we are the second most visited site in Sweden, all categories.
My name is Jonas. I am a PR strategist and one of the founders of Jung Relations, working with Blocket. We're a Stockholm-based agency working mainly with big consumer brands, both in Sweden and internationally.
And this is what our site looked like. Last year we had a big challenge. Like all online companies, attracting programmers is critical for our business. But for years, we have failed to recruit programmers at the pace we need. The target group simply didn't think that Blocket was an interesting place to work. We had to change this. The ultimate objective for this project was to recruit 10 new developers. We really needed them, but the problem was that developers are very desired on the Swedish job market, and we didn't manage to make them interested in us as an employer. As the fast-growing company we are, our inability to attract developers got really, really expensive. We spent a lot of money on different IT recruitment agencies, different work fairs, IT consultants, and finder's fees to our employees, but nothing helped us. And that's when we turned to our PR agency for help. Together with Jung, we wanted to explore new ways to attract talent. But we also wanted to cut our recruitment costs and to find more efficient ways to recruit. And that was a pretty tough challenge. We also knew that a quick fix wouldn't help us in the longer run. A key objective, therefore, was to position Blocket as an innovative and exciting company to work for programmers. So finally, as we turned to PR to find a solution, we also had objectives regarding the publicity generated by the campaign. Together with Jung, we defined the top-tier media for reaching the target group, and we said we wanted to get our message through in about 50% of those media.
Yeah, so this was a really fantastic brief for us, a pretty untraditional brief, actually recruiting people to Blocket. But before we started with our creative work, we sat down with a bunch of programmers to dig into their thoughts around Blocket and to get to know them, what their drivers are. And one big challenge was that programmers thought that nothing really happened technically to the site. In the back end, a lot of interesting development was happening all the time, but the front end design had looked the same for years and years, and they basically thought that nothing is really happening with Blocket. They are not renewing themselves. Another thing that we found out is that many of the programmers that we wanted to attract thought that Blocket was just a server somewhere. It's a pretty anonymous company in one way. I mean, everyone in Sweden knows them, but they don't know that people actually work there. So they didn't know that Blocket had a big team of programmers working in central Stockholm, and therefore they didn't even think of Blocket as a potential employer. So the sort of retro design and the fact that they thought that Blocket was just a server, that made people think that Blocket couldn't offer the same interesting challenges as other companies that they really wanted to work for. But that, of course, wasn't true. One great challenge that Blocket could offer to these people is connected to the huge amount of data that Blocket manages every day. The amount of data contains great challenges for people. Programmers actually think it's pretty cool to take care of this data and make something good out of it. And that was a trigger that we wanted to address when we started talking to these people. We also knew from previous projects that programmers are very much driven by prestige and by showing off their skills. So if we also could find something to trigger those key drivers among the target group, we thought that we could find something that could make them interested. And these insights led to a pretty straightforward strategy. We didn't want to address this we didn't want to present this as just another recruitment campaign, but we wanted this to feel like a great challenge in order to address their desire to compete. We also thought that we would target these people by talking their language. By learning their humor, learning their vocabulary, we knew that if we talk to these people at the same time as we exclude all others, this communication will be very, very targeted to our core target group. So, the idea then, with a limited budget, we created Blocket Easter eggs, which is a digital campaign containing 10 programming challenges hidden in the code on blocket.se. And an Easter egg is a well-known phenomenon for all programmers. It's basically a challenge that you don't see when you first look at something, but when you dig into it, you see the challenge, and by certain commands, you can come up with a solution. And this is what it looked like. We created 10 Easter eggs. They were hidden among the 600,000 ads on blocket.se. And for a regular Blocket user, they couldn't see them. It just looked like any other ad on the site. But if you had the skills that we wanted people to have to get a job at Blocket, you saw these challenges, and by certain commands, you could solve them. And this is just some examples on what they could look like. This just looks like an ad for someone trying to sell a real old computer. But if you know coding, if you dig into the code on this site, you could see the challenge, and you could hopefully solve the problem. This one is based on that you know a lot of gaming and gaming nostalgia. If you knew that, you could solve the Easter egg. This one, if you know binary code, you can see the riddle, and you can come up with a solution. And for this one, you have to know like internet humor, internet memes, in order to find the solution. So what we did then was we launched these Easter eggs on the site, and pretty much within the next couple of hours, the buzz started going on internet forums where the target group goes. And we had, it just took a couple of hours, and one of the biggest forums for programmers in Sweden is called Flashback, and I think today we have like 100,000 views on Flashback only, where people have discussed the campaign and discussed how to solve all these different Easter eggs. Also, media got really interested. We had defined the top-tier media where we wanted to reach out, and 90% of those, they actually covered this initiative. They also published several interviews with the programmers from Blocket, where they could talk both about the campaign, but also about what it's like to work at Blocket. And that way we got also those more long-term messages out. But the best thing was what all this buzz and all this publicity really led to. In the 2-week campaign period, we had 265,000 people visiting the campaign site. We had 8,000 people signing up for the competition, and we had 3,000 people cracking at least one of the eggs. Then there was 250 people who were, sorry? Do you hear me? Yeah. We had 250 people who managed to crack all 10 eggs, and those were the ones that we were really interested in recruiting. So we really got people change their behavior and actually enter this pretty tough challenge.
And actually, these 251 candidates we got were too many to interview, so we had to launch an 11th egg, a really, really hard programming assignment. And after that, we had around 70 candidates that we contacted, and we managed to get 25 interviews. And of these, we decided to sign up 14 new employees. We also managed to sign up the winner of everything, of the whole competition, Niklas, and he works at Blocket today, and we're very happy to have him there. We also reduced our recruitment costs for each of these candidates with around 66-67%. And it was such a success that we actually decided to do the campaign once again. So we launched it again this year around Easter with new challenges and with new campaign features. And in addition to this, the integrated work was a key for making this campaign happen and making it so successful. We at HR provided the challenge and opened up for an unusual way of recruiting new talent. Marketing brought in our PR agency to help us find the big idea, and then the internal team of developers helped to create each one of these 11 eggs. And also they helped integrating them on Blocket.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Elisabeth Pechmann. I'm heading Corporate Comms and Strategic Consulting at Ogilvy Vienna. But before I take you through the presentation, I think I have to get you in the mood. Just imagine yourself 40 kilometers, 40,000 meters above the Earth. It's very cold up there, very lonely. It's a small blue planet, some clouds. You're holding to that capsule. You're going to jump. I am coming home now. Okay, no more to say about that. I think everybody knows that magnificent venture of Felix Baumgartner and the Red Bull Stratos mission. But I suggest that we take a short journey into the mindset of a model maker. That has nothing to do with catwalks, nothing to do with discover and promote the super beauty top models of tomorrow. Model makers' passion is to create a world of their own, with as many wonders as they want to have. They love their Ferraris, only that they have 5 of them fit into a shoebox. They do all the great railway trips, the Royal Scotsman, I think it's called, or the Blue Train. They all have it in their living room. You have to understand that championship and records for model makers are not about being big and strong and fast. It's about being small.
So 1 backup, and we can proceed for ILS straight into stop. Direct to the left, the small taxi track, and hold before the runway. Right on the C-130 is backtracking, prepare for the departure.
Flap 1, flap 1, okay. Stall closing and call aboard.
5 will go.
Wait for movement. Engage.
Local, but after that, we can down the departure track.
Location. Stand by.
Felix, you are clear to jump at your own discretion. I'm on my own.
Vienna, 25th to 28th of October.
You think that's funny? Thank you very much. Just take a brief look at the results. They are, except the budget, all but small. Thank you.
Love that.
Pretty amazing campaigns, as you all saw. Congratulations again. Let me start by asking you the big question. Are these ideas coming from dreaming or digging. You talked a lot about process. This is how you guys came up with the ideas. How was in your case?
In our case, it was a bit unconventional. It's neither dreaming nor digging. It simply was boredom. One of our brilliant creative directors, Helge, watched the preparations for the Stratos mission, and when the jump was postponed and postponed and postponed, he one day said, "Come on, I'm going to do this myself." And we have this client, Model Maker Fair Vienna, for some years, and we love this client very much. So he simply checked with some in the team, with film production and with the clients, and we used some connections towards other people. And then they simply, on the next day, set the whole thing up and filmed it. If the Stratos jump, the real thing of Felix Baumgartner, had happened on time, as initially planned, this thing wouldn't have happened. So it's just boredom, sorry.
What was it boredom in your case, Chris?
It wasn't boredom, no. It's interesting, though, that idea of hijacking a big, pop culture phenomenon and global news story. And I think, being abreast of what's happening in media and lots of different fields actually can inspire and ignite the most amazing ideas. Just on that, actually, I mean, half of where this idea came from for Halo was an article that we'd read in England's finest Daily Mail newspaper about incredible places and venues that you could hire for events. And one of them was Liechtenstein, the country, and one of them was an Italian village. And so, actually, we'd seen that months before the brief ever landed on our desks. And it was kind of filed somewhere, kept somewhere safe, because we knew that we'd be able to go back to that and revisit it somehow. And so, yeah, it's funny, from staying alert and seeing things, you can have that germ of an idea. But our planning process really began with fans, and we knew that with millions of Halo fans around the world, we had to do something to galvanize them and inspire them and motivate them, but by doing so, create enough momentum behind what the fans were doing to tip it over into a mainstream launch, into a mainstream news story. And I think that converged with this idea of making Halo come alive, with that article that we'd read, several months before, crossed together to create the campaign.
Thank you. What do you guys think about dreaming, digging stuff?
Well, we certainly did some digging to come up with the idea, because the challenge was really tough, and you guys had tried many different things. So we felt that we had to get to know the target group in order to find a trigger for them. So we certainly did some planning and digging. But then, of course, when we did that, we sort of rewrote the brief to ourselves, and then we went with our creatives into the next phase of the process. So, and there we had a number of different ideas to start with, some bigger, some smaller. So I think it's probably a combination of both.
That idea of rewriting the brief is quite interesting, because an idea is only as good as the problem that you have. And so if the obviously the brief in itself poses a problem, but by you taking it that step further and exposing another, that obviously then creates the platform for you to come up with that solution.
Those guys didn't even have a brief.
They kind of. I mean, what we here did was, or is called newsjacking. You don't do newsjacking on the basis of a brief. You do newsjacking, if you're lucky, with a client you have a good relationship to, and you have a general agreement with. Most of the times it will not come in the form of a contract. It's based on trust. If you have that, then there is some open playground for creativity to come up with such a spontaneous idea. Newsjacking, I mean, in my opinion, real unconventional newsjacking can't be planned. I mean, you could do proper PR newsjacking, as we all do from time to time, but things like the one I showed you just before couldn't be planned. It's a spontaneous invention. If you have a client, or more than one if you're lucky, you have this basis of trust and this general agreement. If you have an idea, we are prepared to say okay to it, then you can do it.
I like a lot the fact that you mentioned the partnership with the client, and I love the fact that Martina is here, and we have a client here with us. Tell us a bit about the partnership between the agency and the client in the creative process. Of course, all campaigns are a partnership between the client and the agency in the implementation process, but what about the creative part? Was that a partnership also?
Yes, indeed it was. We had several workshops with programmers, with our PR manager, and with myself, together with Jung, to create the eggs, especially, I would say. So we had a lot of fun doing it as well, and I would say that our programmers, they really, really loved it, and they were happy to do it again this year. This is something they really feel strong about.
What was your case, Chris?
Absolutely. I mean, the core germ of the idea itself originated from the agency, but Microsoft and Xbox were absolutely instrumental in helping us develop that idea and push it as far as it could go. We've got an amazing relationship with them, and actually, you know, we were kind of entrusted with the crown jewels of Xbox with Halo, and in creating this event and experience, it had to be authentic. We had to win over media who know the franchise inside out, fans who are the most, you know, passionate and critical people, and in creating this 2-hour experience, we worked very closely with the studio developers and Xbox to create a 2-hour script that actors could. There was obviously the basis for actors on the day to create this experience and make people believe that they were actually living Halo. And we just couldn't have done that without the client and what they brought to the table.
There is a lot of talk about you know, clients being quite conservative and not allowing agency to really express their amazing creativity. These 3 campaigns obviously have really bold ideas. Was it hard to get them approved?
No, at Blocket, no, absolutely not. We were kind of desperate at that point also, so it was really easy. I think it was like 10 minutes in one board meeting, and we had decided. So,
great client. How was Microsoft?
We always, whenever we present an idea to a client, it's always hand in hand with impact. And so there's obviously the creative, but then the KPIs and what the client is going to get out of it in terms of the tangible results. Now, obviously with PR, it's a constant game of chance. It's the ultimate game of risk, isn't it? As, you know, as everyone here knows. So nothing is guaranteed, but we felt so strongly in the idea and so strongly that we were able to deliver these results to the clients that was, you know, really the strongest weapon in our armor. But Xbox and Microsoft being the huge organization that it is, there are lots of stakeholders to win over. We've had it's been more difficult to sell other ideas in, actually, but for sure it was a huge risk for any, I think, organization to take. Hiring a country for 24 hours, you know, takes a lot of planning and a lot of reassurance, for sure.
I want to go on a totally different line of questions. When did you know the idea would be an award-winning one? Was this more of an afterthought, or did you realize the idea was going to win awards while you were creating it?
My first thought actually wasn't award-winning, I have to admit, but audience-winning. And there was this certain point in time, I think about 2 or 3 or 4 hours after the thing has been put up on YouTube, when one of our creative colleagues called us in the corporate comms department, kind of help seeking and saying, look, we already have 200,000 clicks, what shall we do now? And that was when the other part of creativity in that case came to play. Because then we decided, okay, we make a social thing out of that. We had a very good strategy, or a thorough strategy, on how to seed this story around the world to get enough publicity to really make it big. And you must know a bit about Austria. This is a small country. And we have a proverb about the prophet not being recognized among his own fellows. So the usual Austrian has to go abroad, get famous there, return, and be welcomed as the guru. The same with this campaign. We started to, we informed some of our key media contacts in Vienna and blogosphere contacts, but then we started to seed it in America via news portals, and we focused a lot on Twitter, and then we went with the time zones via Australia and Asia, and then back to Europe. Then it went up to 9 million clicks on YouTube. So there is creativity on both ends of that story. Creativity coming up with that brilliant idea for that film, but also what Miles Young, our worldwide Ogilvy boss, calls pervasive creativity, the creativity at the other end of the team. And I think one could not make it without the other, and the same with your event.
Yeah.
You could have come up with a brilliant plan for an event. Hadn't you make it social, it wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I think similarly, you know, the layers to the storytelling and identifying all the, you know, the different media homes for the story. I think we knew that we had a strong enough story that could live in enough places and be driven through earned and owned and social to, you know, to really create the impact that we needed. I didn't, when we were planning it, immediately think, oh, you know, we sat on a stage at the Sabres, you know, next spring, but absolute confidence in the idea to do the job that it needed to do.
For us, I think we felt very comfortable with the strategy and the idea, but for us, it was, since we built like an interactive game, it was a bit difficult to know if the Easter eggs, are they too difficult to solve or are they too easy? So for us, I think it was pretty much when we launched, and within the next few hours, then we could like relax and see like, okay, this is working. But then, on the other hand, we got too many entries and we got too many people to choose from. So then we decided halfway through the 2-week campaign that, okay, we had to add something. So I think it's also very important that you can sort of change things and adjust things like halfway through, or when you see that, okay, this isn't working. If we hadn't had enough people entering this competition, we would have had to change things. Now we had to change it the other way around instead, which was easier, of course. But it was not until launch that we sort of could relax.
In my former agency at the practice, we used those criteria to actually measure ideas before presenting them to clients.
Which is a good idea.
You know, because in my opinion, a word-worthy work is amazing work. So why would you present to clients anything but amazing work? So we kind of take the idea through those criteria before even going to the client with the idea, you know? Because this is what we all want to have, a great work.
Yeah, but sometimes you simply have to go for an idea that just fulfills one of these criteria,
yes,
but it fulfills them brilliantly. So don't be too rigid about that, I would suggest.
Absolutely. One last question, because we don't have much time. Do you give credits to the people who actually had the idea in your agencies? And are they here?
We do. We've got this. I mean, there's several things that we do. I mean, just two of them. We've got something called, forgive the phrases of these, the crafters and the grafters. A play on the British BAFTAs. The grafters are for people who are, you know, selling in, hitting the phones, and kind of translating ideas into coverage. And the crafters are specifically to reward people with creative ideas. And the rewards can be anything from dinner at a Michelin-starred restaurant to money to a bottle of champagne. It's really kind of evaluated on the weight of
Very good.
the idea. The people, actually, I think it's very much a team effort. So the two of us are here and the rest of us are back in London.
Our creatives rather cherish Cannes Lions. I think they are preparing to get one this year. I will teach them to appreciate SABRE awards as well. And we just sent them a photo back home from the award celebration. And at least one part of the project, the other end about seeding in social media, is represented here, and the boss of a company who allows his team to really be creative in all departments and not just in a reservate.
I completely agree with you. Our campaign was very much a team effort. We were such a big group, both internally with the agency during the creative phase, but also from Blocket. So I think we're going to be a pretty big group celebrating when we come home.
Very good. Okay. Questions from the audience? Good.
Just interested in the question about measurement.
Wait, there's a mic coming.
I was just interested in the measurement for the Halo campaign. In terms of what did you put your neck on the line on in terms of measurement? Was it just we're going to get X amount of coverage, or did you say we're going to get $200 million of sales? What was the KPI?
Yeah, coverage metrics were across traditional, social, etc. We don't ever track advertising value for Xbox because we don't really feel it tells us anything about the value of the campaign. Instead, there's a top story criteria which looks at much more about kind of sentiment and key message delivery, etc. So that's the short answer, but we could talk for hours alone on that criteria.
Thank you.
There's one more question.
Thank you. It was just on the model making campaign, actually. I just wondered on the 9 million views on YouTube, which is awesome, how much of that was seeding and how much of it was through earned media?
I had my difficulties to understand you acoustically. Could you please repeat?
Yeah, sorry. So on your YouTube views, how much of that was through earned media and how much was through paid for seeding?
No paid for seeding. It was PR at its best. Nothing paid. The budget was $1,500 for buying Lego pieces and renting a car to get all that to a field in the middle of nowhere close to Vienna, where they usually collect vegetables they've harvested from the nearby fields. No paid for seeding.
Great. Thank you all. Congratulations again. One more question? One last question, please.
Hi, this is for the model makers as well. Amazing campaign.
Could you please stand up? I can't even see you. Yeah.
It's not uncommon for clients to be very nervous about hijacking another brand's activity. I just wondered if you had informed Red Bull of what you were doing or how you managed that.
We had connections, and you saw the proof. The moment when Felix Baumgartner wrote on his own Facebook page, check that video out, it's mind-blowing. We had the proof that they okayed it, kind of, but we were very cautious in using or not using brand logos, names, etc., etc. And we also had a fallback scenario in case Felix's mission would not have been successful. Because with news checking, there is always the risk that something does not happen the way you've planned it, and you should be prepared for that. I mean, as funny as this looks, it's a lot of very tough and serious craftsmanship behind it, and I would suggest that news checking and doing it professionally would make up for another panel.
Thank you so much. Congratulations again.
What was the budget for the Halo event?
Who are you?
Slightly more than that. We don't disclose that, unfortunately. You're going to have to go home empty-handed. But similarly, for the results that you saw, there was no paid spend behind any of the content distribution. It was all driven through earned and owned.
Thank you. Congratulations again. Bye-bye.